Hey everyone, and welcome. We think we know our dogs so well, right? But what if their everyday quirks, like say absolutely losing their minds when the delivery person shows up, are actually clues to a massive evolutionary shift, a change that's happening right now in our own homes? Let's dive in.
So everything we're about to talk about today is based on a really fascinating article from Doggozilla magazine that asks this exact question.
I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? The doorbell rings and boom, instant chaos. But this quote, it just reframes that whole moment perfectly. It's suggesting this isn't just your dog being naughty, it's a piece of their ancient, wild past smashing right into our 21st century world. And that collision, well, it's forcing some pretty profound changes.
And that brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. Are we, right now in our own lifetimes, guiding our dogs into a totally new phase of their evolution? A third wave of domestication? Let's take a look at the evidence.
Okay, but before we can even talk about a third wave, we've got to understand the first two. They are the massive evolutionary chapters that gave us the dogs we know and love today.
So wave one was this slow, kind of natural process. We're talking tens of thousands of years ago, when the bravest, or maybe just the hungriest wolves started hanging around human camps. And then something amazing happened. By about 10,000 years ago, dogs already had a ton of physical variety. But then you fast forward to the 1800s, and wave two hits, and this was a full-on, human-driven revolution in breeding, all for specific look.
And this chart just breaks it down perfectly. Wave one was all about survival. It was this ancient deal we made. We were selecting for temperament. The least fearful, most cooperative wolves got to stick around. It was a total win-win. They got food, we got help and protection. But wave two, that was all about status symbols and what looked good. We started selecting for looks, the perfect floppy ear, a specific coat color. The entire goal just flipped.
But here's the catch. There was a hidden cost to all this. This obsession with appearance led to stuff like the popular sire effect, where just a few champion show dogs were bred over and over and over again. A big study on German Shepherds, for example, showed this caused a massive nosedive in their genetic diversity, which in turn led to a spike in health problems. The quest for the perfect-looking dog sometimes came at the expense of a perfectly healthy one.
And that brings us right up to today. Because now, there's a new and incredibly powerful force shaping our dogs. We've taken them out of the fields and put them into tiny apartments, creating this huge mismatch between their hardwired instincts and what we expect from them.
I mean, just think about it. That instinct to guard their territory, that makes for a super stressful walk in a crowded city. All that boundless energy they were bred to have for herding sheep all day, well, that can turn into straight-up anxiety when they're cooped up in a small apartment. Their prey drive, their barking. These used to be critical survival skills. Now, we often label them as behavior problems.
So here's the bottom line. Our 21st century life has basically created a brand new job description for dogs. We're not really selecting for a top-notch hunter or a fierce guardian anymore. No, what we're selecting for is a calm, flexible, super social companion who can handle the craziness of our world. And that demand, that is the engine driving this third wave.
Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds good. But is there any actual real-world evidence that this shift is really happening? Oh, you bet there is.
Honestly, look no further than the modern service dog. These dogs are the perfect blueprint. They aren't just well-trained pets, they're the result of decades of intense selective breeding for one thing and one thing only, temperament. They are bred to be absolutely unflappable. And get this, research even shows they can have higher levels of oxytocin, the bonding hormone. They are living, breathing proof that we absolutely can and are breeding for a specific psychological profile.
And this isn't just a dog thing. The famous Russian fox experiment is like the perfect scientific model for this. Scientists took wild silver foxes and, for generation after generation, they only bred the calmest, most human-friendly ones. And the results, they were mind-blowing. The new generations of foxes started acting just like dogs. They wanted human contact, they wagged their tails, they even started to look like dogs, with floppy ears and different coat patterns. It's proof that selecting purely for friendliness can literally reshape an animal, inside and out.
So that begs a really good question, right? If the grand prize isn't the perfect snout or the silkiest coat anymore, what exactly is the most desirable trait we're selecting for in this third wave?
Well, you could almost call it the settle gene. Now, it's not a real gene, obviously it's a concept, but it represents the absolute holy grail for a Wave 3 dog. Their built-in innate ability to just be calm, to handle stress, and to chill out in our loud, busy human world. We've shifted from breeding for physical form to breeding for psychological fitness.
Now, I know this all sounds very grand and kind of academic, but it has huge practical meaning for you and the dog that might be sitting at your feet right now. This literally changes how we should be seeing them and living with them every single day.
So, the next time your dog is pulling like a freight train on a leash or barking at a plastic bag blowing down the street, just remember this. They are not trying to be bad. They are an ancient creature with ancient software trying to operate in a world they weren't designed for. Just that little shift in how you see it can change everything. It builds empathy and helps us find kinder and, frankly, more effective ways to train.
And here's the really cool part. You can actively participate in this evolution. When you're choosing a dog, try to focus on the individual animal's temperament, not just what the internet says about their breed. Socialize your puppy early and often. That builds a resilient, confident dog. And here is a huge one. Make a conscious effort to reward calm behavior. Teach them that just settling down and relaxing is the best thing they can possibly do. You are literally helping them adapt.
All right, we've looked at the long history, the pressures of our modern world, and the scientific evidence. So, what's the final verdict here?
And the verdict is yes. The evidence is pretty overwhelming. Dogs are absolutely entering a new phase of their evolution. It might not be as flashy as creating a whole new breed, but this quieter revolution, this shift in temperament driven by our simple need for companionship, is every bit as powerful and just as important.
But you know, this understanding comes with a really big responsibility. It means we have to guide this evolution with compassion. We have to start prioritizing their health and their well-being way above what they look like. We aren't just pet owners, we're stewards. We are the guardians of a species that chose, all those thousands of years ago, to throw their lot in with us. We kind of owe it to them to get this right.
And that leaves us with one last, really crucial question to think about. As we continue on this incredible journey together, shaping their very nature with every single choice we make, what kind of dog are we actually building for the future?
Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. For more information about dogs and all sorts of dog-related things, be sure to visit Dogazilla magazine over at Dogazilla.com.